Good evening, everyone. I regret to say I can't be with you this evening because I'm pursuing being competitive in tennis in the women's USTA senior circuit. But I'm happy to say that Trina Hosmer, my dear friend, is going to be here this evening to represent me. Some of you may know that my brother and I were adopted from Italy.
Rosie was 5 years old in 1953 when she emigrated to Denver to live with her adopted parents, Lixie and Rosie Fortna.
We came in October, and before my 6th birthday, which was in December of that year, he had both my brother Victor and I on skis. He had visions of me being an Olympian before I even thought of that dream.
It wasn't long before the young family picked up and moved east.
We lived on a farm in Moortown, Vermont, and my father was a ski instructor at Mad River Glen, and this was way before Sugarbush came along.
Rosie grew up skiing at Mad River Glen, often having the run of the mountain, or skiing with her dad and his fellow instructors. But Mad River did not have a junior racing program.
My father would take me on the practice slope, and he would set up saplings that he cut from the woods, and he'd put poles in. If any of you have ever skied the beginner slope at Mad River Glen, you will know that if you can ski that slope, you can ski anywhere in the world and feel comfortable. My father would take me to the junior races all over the state of Vermont. The first race that I competed in was at Pico Peak, and I ended up winning it. It was a slalom.
She was only 9 years old at the time. A few years later, after winning a race in Stowe, Rosie was asked by Pat Daly, their race director, if she wanted to train and race with the Mount Mansfield Ski Club, where he would coach her.
I jumped at the opportunity because at that time there were no ski academies as we know them today, and probably Stowe was probably the closest. They had the best skiers, they had the best mountain, the best coaches, so everyone wanted to be a part of the Mount Mansfield Ski Club.
As her ski racing was picking up, the Sugarbush ski area opened, and her dad became part of its ski school. Rosie recalls the ski area's manager, Jack Murphy, buying their place.
We moved up to Sugarbush. My father built the ski lodge. It was called the Golden Horse Lodge. And he had also built a little house in the back and also a building out front, which later the downstairs was rented to Stein Eriksen for his ski shop. I was in high school, and so it was quite a transition for me to come from working on the farm, feeding the chickens, and be in this lodge atmosphere with guests and actually have dinner be served to me.
When Rosie won the Junior National Slalom, she was invited to go to a summer training camp at Mount Bachelor in Oregon. Bob Beatty headed up the camp, and the girls on the national team were there. So was Dave McCoy.
Dave McCoy was out there with a group of his girls that he was coaching from Mammoth. He started Mammoth Mountain. Dave asked me after the camp if I'd be interested in coming out and training with his girls. And I thought I'd die to went to heaven because this was an amazing opportunity. And so after high school that fall, which was in 1965, I flew out there and I lived out there for 3 years. And it was an incredible 3 years. It really helped my advancement in my skiing career.
Her breakout race was in the spring of 1966, the Far West Kandahar at Mount Hood. She took first place in the slalom, skiing against the U.S. team and a field of international racers.
1967 was actually a good year for me. It was Franconia. I was the best U.S. finisher of the women. I had a 4th in the slalom, and then a 5th in Vail for the international team races, where all the best from each team were competing. Basically, those 2 races put me on the team for the slalom.
Joining the circuit in Europe, Rosie placed well, gearing up for the 1968 Olympics.
Several finishes in the top 10. Also won a race in Yugoslavia. So that was a pretty good year. Went to the Olympics, had some great highlights there. Probably the greatest highlight was my parents were there. My My dad's dream finally came true, and there he was. And I only wish he was here tonight, because believe me, he'd be grinning. As far as best results, probably 1970. That one had the most titles, US, won the US Nationals, the Canadian Nationals, and the World University Games. We had a World Cup race at Whistler Mountain, and that's where I had the fall that ended basically my skiing career. Hit a wooden snow fence. They didn't have those plastic rebounding ones. And I hit that, flipped over it. I had two 13s on and had tightened them so they would not come off, which they did not. I flipped over the fence, went down a ravine into a creek bed, couldn't feel anything. And they ended up flying me out by helicopter and then flew me to Seattle, where we had a surgeon. Then I ended up retiring. Since I couldn't make the 72 team, I retired and started coaching.
Out of Denver, Colorado, where she had 75 kids and 4 coaches working under her. In 1973, Rosie signed up for the first women's Hang 10 Pro Tour and won that first women's pro racing. But soon after, she couldn't get up out of a chair. A trip to the Mayo Clinic revealed she had broken more than her knee at Whistler. Her back was broken in 2 places, as well as her neck.
All of it from that one fall. I don't really know of a ski racer that hasn't had some sort of injury, but of course you never think about that when you're racing. You think it's the safest, and because you've been doing it since you were 5 or 6, so it's no big deal.
The Vermont Ski and Snowboard Museum welcomes Rosie Fortna into the Vermont Ski and Snowboard Hall of Fame.